The first building block is desire, right? So when we're thinking about creating films, we're creating videos, things we need to look for, things we need to find. The first thing, and one of the biggest things, is desire. Just the idea that we need somebody that wants something. And I have an image up here from Jess and Brian's wedding in Ireland of the parents. And they're laughing and they're having so much fun. And I had this, I didn't realize this for a long time, but we started in weddings. And you'd have such a hard time when you get a couple that really just didn't care. You know, they were, whether it was stressed out, whether or not it was, an arranged marriage, or so it seemed, like there would be these times when you'd show up and it's like the people just really weren't into it. And it was like, it didn't matter the steady cams and the sliders and the cinema primes and the, sweet rack focus moves and all the crazy lighting on the rings, whatever we could throw at it, you couldn't feel anything. We could not create something that would get you to feel something. And on the opposite end, we'd have these weddings with like, I shot a wedding by myself once with just a little bit of gear, but the couple was so in love. They were so passionate. And you can put together almost anything from that and you feel it. And from that, what we get is the idea that desire matters most, that we need a character, we need somebody in our story that really wants something. And they need to want something because that paves the way for empathy. You think about it like kids. How many of us have kids? Okay, so those of you that have kids, it might be different for you as the parent, but I can say as like a bystander, when you can see a kid in a candy store or a toy store, even at home, and they want like a treat, they're so excited. Like it takes up their whole being that like this is the thing that I want. And as somebody watching, it's like you want it for them. You want to give them another candy, give them another toy, like that kind of thing. And it's not because you think they need it, but it's that desire, right? That just takes up so much of them that you want to provide that. And that's empathy. We can feel that for them. That's what you're trying to provide your viewer, is that experience where you've got a character that wants something so bad that you want it for them. That is the secret of how you can kind of transcend the subject material. And by that I mean our first documentary was on child slavery, and it had a 9-year-old girl who was fighting child slavery using lemonade. A lot of you don't want to watch a movie on child slavery. But if we give you a story of a 9-year-old girl with this crazy desire, you fall in love with her and you want to see her reach her goal. That's how and why you watch, right? So that we're talking about finding characters and people that really want something.
And so what P just mentioned then was finding the right character. So for him then it was finding that little girl who really wanted it badly, right? She really wanted to do something different. So when we're hunting down stories, I remember I had a job in Afghanistan, and this was like the job, going to Afghanistan and telling a story about female empowerment. That's pretty cool, right? That's something that connects with me, making an impact, making a change. And so I'm interviewing all these people that are working on the project, right? And I was speaking to this guy from the UN, and he's doing some pretty amazing stuff. He helped the first woman in Afghanistan open up a bank account. And so I'm talking to him, like, so, why do you do what you do? Why are you putting yourself on the line every day and going against some really big stigmas, like really big challenges? Oh, yeah, well, it's my job. Like, I really want to do a good job at it. And I like push further and I push further. And I'm talking to him more, and it just like he really likes his job. He just didn't have that strong desire inside of him to go and get it, right? So you can connect with him because he's doing something amazing, but you kind of switch off a little bit after a while because you're like, oh, well, like, but why? Like, why beyond that? And so in comparison, I was speaking to a woman, and she is one of the only women in the team that are working towards helping each of these other women, right? She's the first employed person in her family, first employed female in her family. And she's striving for it because she's got a taste at it and she wants to let, all the other girls in her village have the same kind of experience where they could go and get a job. They could go and start a beehive. They could open up their own bank account because these are all new ideas and she was hungry for it because she'd experienced it herself. So immediately, like hearing the difference between the two, which one do you connect with more, right? Anyone? The woman, that's right. They all said the woman. And that's because she wanted something, like she really had that desire. And so if we move over to our next slide here, it's a really awesome quote. And this is, desire is something that a person really wants beyond what he or she already has. And so beyond is the really big key word here, right? Because, you can really want something, but it's got to be greater. It's got to be like this big, big thing that drives you and pushes you forward, not just I like my job.
And as we'll lead into next, when we have the idea of beyond, then we're paving the way for a journey,
Yeah.
right? If there's something more that I want, then we can see that the character needs to do something. And I'm going to use the word character, but I'm really just talking about the people in your film, right? I want us to think of them as characters because you, as the storyteller, have to understand and choose and develop your characters. Question.
Yeah, the guy that you were talking to that you couldn't really find that desire, do you think it's possible that he was just a hard shell to crack? Like if you pushed even harder, are some people just impossible to?
We're going to jump into some interview techniques after this. So I'm not going to give too much away, but in answer to your question, sometimes that's what you encounter. Sometimes maybe something really bad has happened, or maybe they have, like, their personality is just too closed up. And in either case, if they have something that's really challenging that's happened to them that they don't want to talk about, that's when you push forward and you keep pushing and you do research and you find other ways around to find that, right? But then in some cases as well, some people, when you're talking about particular topics, whatever the key theme or key messages or key words of your piece are, maybe they don't have a desire that connects strongly enough with it. I'm sure that that guy, there is something else in his life that really pushes him forward. It's just his job isn't it. And who here has ever worked in a job where it doesn't meet what they really want to do?
Richard, Alex, do not put your hand
Yeah,
up.
put your hands down. They work with us. And I'm sure everyone listening online too, it's the same kind of deal. So yes, it could be one of the two. You just have to do the research and really look into it to get that answer. Yeah.
And so what we're looking for here is what the desire is and how strong it is. So we're both trying to identify it, but then also see how strong it is. So if you're doing a commercial film, we would talk to different people about what it is they really want, right? So what's a kind of commercial film that somebody might be working on, like a coffee shop or a pet adoption agency? Give me a sample. Okay, so a mortgage broker, right? So we get this call, and Ethan's like, "Oh wow, this is going to be dry." A mortgage broker film, right? So a mortgage broker is somebody who's going to help people get mortgages and get houses. So what are some of the people that we could consider to look for desire? Now, the mistake that most of us make is right away is we're just going to go interview the mortgage broker, shoot him walking around a house and put together the piece and call it a day, right? Before we do that, before we pick up cameras or anything else, first we're going to talk to the mortgage broker and we're going to figure out what his desire is. Now, the second mistake, first mistake is just taking the character and just interviewing him. Second mistake is that we assume the desire is to sell houses. We assume the desire is just the thing that we got hired to do. Oh, you're a mortgage broker, so I guess you just want to sell houses. But when you dive into what people actually want, you might find out that actually he believes in the perfect union of like the right family with the right space, or he loves building families and seeing them grow, or there could be something so much deeper to this. We have to understand what is that actual desire. So don't stop at just the obvious thing. I work at an adoption agency, so it's just getting, animals adopted. Now, what are some of the other people though that we might be able to consider besides just the mortgage broker?
The home buyer, and then possibly even realtors who work with you.
Yeah. Yeah. So the home buyer or possible realtors. Absolutely. You could have, and what we're looking at here is trying to find a singular character with strong desire at this point of our development. So we talk to the realtor off camera, we talk to the wife or the husband, talk to the kids, we talk to people that have bought homes. And if we were doing it, we talked to people who just bought a home, we talked to people who bought a home from him a year ago, and we talked to people who are looking at buying homes. And out of that, we would try and find somebody who has really strong desire, right? That is going to give us an opportunity to then weave a story together about the mortgage broker that is actually going to make you feel something.
We've got a question. One of our friends. Who
We
is
do.
it?
James gave a very specific example. So, working on Indiegogo campaign for scholarships for a transformational yoga training program. Story on one person who received a scholarship, had cancer, and is now cancer-free from using this health and wellness techniques.
Absolutely.
Wow, very
So-
specific.
And so you can see, it's a yoga program, helps somebody overcome cancer, transforms their life. Sounds like a strong character. You still want to obviously make sure that they have desire, that they really want something. And what is it beyond yoga? What is it that they want for their life? some of you will do projects where you're given a character, right? You're doing a wedding. I'm not suggesting all of a sudden you just like say you should really marry somebody else because his desire's low.
It's not gonna be
right?
good for my film. I've really got to find a strong desire.
So it's not about that. If you have something where you have to use somebody, one, check that assumption and make sure that you actually do. The mortgage broker does not have to be in the mortgage broker film. But you really want to then take the time to develop what that desire is. And that's where a lot of us fall short. We don't really take the time to understand and ask questions, which we'll get into in a second. Some different techniques and how you can talk to people to actually understand what this is about for them and try and get a better sense of how strong they want it. But the first key, and this is pass or fail, black or white. If you do not have a character that wants something, it is nearly impossible to make your audience feel your story. That make sense? Whether it's a wedding, a commercial film, a documentary, an educational video, it doesn't matter. You can think this thing is so dry and boring because I'm doing, a 10-minute educational film. Well, but if you have somebody that really, really wants to keep people safe and their training is going to do that, you can feel it. Okay, so that's our first thing. To do that, I want to share with you a film from our web series. So we're going to show you, I think, 3 different films today. They're all from our original web series called The Remarkable Ones. And so this is just a short documentary series where we travel the world doing pieces on some of the most remarkable people out there. And these stories are great because they're what a lot of us want to tell. They're inspiring short stories of people overcoming things and that sort of thing. All of the films we're showing you today embrace all of the concepts we're talking about. So we'll be able to use these to kind of reference back. As I share the story of Zelwyn, our Malaysian friend, and I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity or the privilege to go to a whiskey bar with a Malaysian magician, but man, does that blow your mind. He actually took the watch of the server who almost got on his knees and was like, I didn't believe, but now I believe. He called the chef out to perform like magic for the whole restaurant. It was mind-blowing. As you watch this story, as you get to know Zelwyn and you hear his story, what we're focused on right now is desire. Okay, so I want you to specifically pay attention to how he speaks, how he gesticulates, how he's communicating, and what that makes you feel. Look at the connection between him wanting it and you wanting it for him.
I could remember very clearly, I was in my ex-girlfriend's brother's room. So he came up to me, hey, Zelwyn, I learned this new trick, I want to show it to you, come on. He took out a deck of cards. Okay, now all these cards are different. Yeah? I want you to just randomly point and pick one card. Okay, I remember that card. He took it back, he put it into the middle of the deck, and he snapped his finger. He removed the top card, turned it over. It was my card. No, a second ago it was in the middle. Do it again. Put it back into the middle. Snap. No, something's happening. The card appears wherever he wants to. And for the finale, I thought that was it, but for the finale, he spread the whole deck on his bed. He's like, no! All the cards turned into my selected card. That was the moment I felt like a little child, and I enjoyed that feeling. I enjoyed that moment of being amazed. I wanted to be able to amaze people with magic. The perception of the people in Malaysia towards magic, it's like, yeah, it's good, you can perform for my children's birthday party. They don't have any respect at all towards magician. I was in college at that time. I was studying psychology. My parents were just telling me, Zelwyn, you need to stop magic. Please, stop magic. It's not good for you. You need to complete your studies, get a degree. Maybe then you will consider magic. I believe otherwise. In college, while the lecturer is giving his lecture, I would have cards down there. He'll be teaching about chemistry, I'll be thinking about magic. I couldn't stop. My friends in church found out that I love magic. Then one of these guys came up to me and said, hey, so there's this magician from another city, he has a club, maybe you can learn more from him, This club meeting, it's in a city out of my hometown, it's very far. So Sundays, I'll get my mom to fetch me from church to the train station near my house. The train station, I'll have a 1 hour's ride to the city. I'll take a second train to another place. And once I reach that place, I have 14 minutes walk to the house where we have a club meeting. All in all, it would take me approximately 2 hours to get there. In this weather, boom, it's hot. I lose all my energy. But it didn't stop me, I enjoyed that. There is one rule before you enter the meeting. Leave your ego at the door. It's a very beautiful place to be, a very healthy, beautiful place. We have a small stage there, and we perform magic. After the show is done, we all will sit down, and then that's the hard part. That's the crucial part, that's the painful part, but the part that makes you grow. We will all say, that wasn't good.
A few things that you need to watch out is the angle, because from where I sit, I cannot see what's happening on the right side.
Maybe you need to do it slow, not too fast.
So that's what we do in the club meeting. We help each other grow. Not only as a magician, but as a person. I enjoy magic, and I knew that I don't want to just be performing to my friends in the club. I want to get on the street experience, you know. So I went guerrilla style in magic. It's very common when you go to a restaurant. Sometimes a nicely dressed guy with a suit and tie will come up to the deck of cards and show you some really amazing magic while you wait for your food to arrive. I knew that this kind of thing exists in other countries, but not in Malaysia. Why not? Why not in Malaysia? Why? What's stopping this from happening? So I went online and I found out several clubs which I thought I could work at. I went up front with them. I won an opportunity to work with your club, to be your club's resident magician. I sent that out to about 20 clubs, no reply. Then suddenly a club replied. So I told my friend, hey, so this Zouk club replied, you know, then they were like, do you know what Zouk is? Zouk is the biggest club in KL, the biggest club in Malaysia, the most well-known, the most prestigious club in the whole of Malaysia. Yay! I was over the roof. I was like, oh, I'm back next week. One evening during the club meeting, we're just sitting down, chit-chatting about magic. The club president, he tapped his hand on the table. Bum, bum. Right, so now let's talk about Zelvin. Okay, what's happening? Then he said that, oh, we all know that he's been working in Zouk for about 2 months now, and we all know that Zelvin is not good enough. The fee that he's charging them, it's so low, it's spoiling the market for all of us here who are working so hard. He asked me, so Zelvin, if I were to send you and this guy out, who do you think the client would hire? Well, that guy. That's right, they won't hire you because you're not good enough yet. So today we need to make a decision whether should we keep him or say goodbye to him. I'm going to leave the room now and you can vote. I stood up, I said, hey, it's okay, I'll just leave the club. I went rounds and rounds thanking each and every one of them and saying that, hey, no thank you. Got into my car, drove back home, and I was on the slowest lane in the highway driving back home. My window was down, I was crying, I was tearing, I was like, the person that I looked up to, that I learned with, is telling me that I'm not good enough. It really pierced my heart. I was thinking to myself, do I stop magic? I had my magic family cut off from me. My own family, they wouldn't encourage me to go on with magic. It was just me against this whole big thing in front of me, and I just didn't know how I could break down this wall. I decided to, you know what, Zelvin, give it a try. Go, just try. When things like that hit you, you have two options, only two options. It's either you take those words and let it scar you for life and affect the rest of your journey, or you can take those words and use it as fuel to burn the passion that you already have in you. I have a very big dream. I saw myself standing on a big stage doing big magic, not just card tricks, but big magic. Of all places, being born in Klang, it's a very small town. No one would believe that I, a simple boy from a small town, is able to build magic. Passion does this to you. Without passion, it's living a life without legacy. It's like when you die, your candle just diminishes and leaves nothing. Do not let anyone rob that dream away from you, because the richest person on earth is someone who has passion in them. They are the richest person on earth. If you look at a little child, everything amazes them. Everything is magic. As we grow older, as we grow up, nothing amazes us anymore. Logic sets in. We start to understand how things work. Magic transports you to a moment for you to believe that it's possible. Maybe it's possible.
Directly from Malaysia to the Seven Seas AKU, Selwyn.
Magic is a tool, and it's a power that you gain, that you have within you to bring someone back to a moment of childlike wonder.
So can we see desire? I heard our camera team at the back like laughing when he saw the truck and went, like you feel that moment. He is so passionate and you feel it for him. He took 2 to 3 different buses, traveled 3 hours in sweltering heat just to be able to make it to this church basement where he could practice magic. As an audience member, like you want it for him, right? You see how hard he's working. Yeah? When he's in class and he's like, oh, they'd be doing stuff and I'd just be practicing my magic under the table. When everybody's telling him no, he's going, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Those are all moments where we see that desire come to life. Now, what happens if you have somebody who wants to be a magician, but they don't really have strong desire? What happens if we do the same story, but Selwyn doesn't have desire? The role of desire, not just as you as the storyteller, but inside a person, is what allows them to overcome and create great things. The most successful people, the world changers, the innovators, they have great desire. So you're trying to find that in whoever you can in the stories you're doing, because those are the ones that will persist. Yes?
A couple people online, so they felt it when someone said everyone on Earth has been told no, and they weren't good enough or something, so it was a much larger conversation there. But when he talks about magic being universal and applicable to all, bringing back joy, when he got cut off from his magic family and he used it as fuel to push himself forward.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that meeting was like incredibly powerful. He emails every single club in Kuala Lumpur. One of them writes back, he's willing to do it for nothing because he's this young guy. And then his magic club, the only thing he has is like, you're doing it too cheap, you're out. Go home. Like, can you imagine that? And then not giving up after that. Like, so much desire. Now, what was his desire?
I guess his his ultimate desire is to make it to the big stage as a musician, but...
Did anybody hear anything else besides making... So Brett made the mistake that Ethan might have made, saying, well, the mortgage broker wants to sell houses.
He wants to connect with people.
Yep, and what kind of connection does he want to create?
He wants to wow them.
Yes, he wants to create wonder. Right? Did we feel that? The opening story was like, you could feel that. As soon as you tap into that as the storyteller, he comes alive. It's the wonder that he wants to create. Magic is the vehicle. Like the mortgage broker wants to create families and the house is the vehicle. Right? So we make that mistake right away and we just go, oh, he wants to just be a magician. But there's something behind it and that's what you need to find. That's what the actual desire is.